Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The Group of Death is reaching its conclusion here in the VALORANT World Championship. Sentinels finally actually getting a victory on the board, despite the fact that over the last few days, all the talk has been about these Chinese teams, how much damage they're going to do at this tournament. FPX, after their very close matches against Heretics earlier on, they still go down to Sentinels, but Ardiis definitely gives his perspective on the Chinese teams over the last couple of days. How far can the likes of Trace Esports go? What's going on elsewhere? Very much interested your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, here from 100 Thieves, there's been lots of talk about what they're going to do with their roster situation going into next season. Of course, Zix came on board from Evil Geniuses to kind of head that up over there. Mike's was the guy doing a lot of the work before for them, but now that's not going to be the case. So as we see here for Mike's 2024 will be his final year with 100 Thieves after 2.5 years on the team, looking for a team as like head or assistant coach positions for the upcoming season. So, you know, wishing him the best. I do wonder what 100T are going to do as an org for next year, right? Because at the end of the day, despite the talent they had, their success as an organisation wasn't really there. They didn't make it to the World Championship in the end. Yes, they won the trophy in the Americas earlier this season, but it wasn't good enough on an international level. And, you know, there's obviously talk about what that roster is going to look like. The Boostio content-related drama that happened a little while ago as well. So, questions to be raised on that. Quickly on this as well, you guys might have seen the big news around Oxygen Esports / the Boston Breach, basically like shutting it down. Oxygen, of course, a team that didn't qualify in the end, surprisingly to many, for Ascension. They're expected potentially to make it all the way through. I thought their team was good enough to potentially make that happen, but never actually happened in the end. So, you know, Dapper obviously is talking out too in the replies because he had one bad series that he bowed out of the tournament. And, yeah, the entire organisation is apparently getting culled. So, I don't think the Valorant's failure to qualify for Ascension was necessarily the primary driving force behind this, but maybe it was one of the reasons why the organisation is just straight up calling it a day. We'll get into this series here in a second, but Edward Gaming, of course, played G2 yesterday in a very interesting series. Because again, the Chinese team's proving to be very effective at this tournament so far. It wasn't really expected, right? It's kind of interesting how it's worked out because the Chinese teams for the last year or so, year and a bit really, every tournament they've gone to, the likes of Edwards, they've been hyped up pretty big time, right? It's like, okay, how far will Edward go? Will they be able to win it? Will they be able to take down top teams? This tournament was the first time in some time, I thought, where really there wasn't that much expectation. For FPX, maybe at FPX are in a tough group, as we've seen over the last couple of minutes. Edward internationally have struggled, and therefore there wasn't really much talk about Billy or certainly Trace Esports making any real damage happen. Of course, people looked at Billy, you know, could they do another upset or whatever? And to be fair, Bianc, who was on that team last year, now on Trace Esports, he's been doing plenty of upsets over the last few days. But actually, despite the maybe lack of, you know, optimism around the Chinese scene coming into this event, they've actually done really rather well. And G2 were, you know, not lucky because they earned it, but they could easily have not got over the line this series. And Simon had a really good performance here. Of course, he's the player they brought on, the Taiwanese player they brought into their roster. And, yeah, Icebox 13-8 to Edward Gaming on the pick of G2. But then G2 bounced back with a 13-11, super close one. They iced up on the final few rounds. And then they took the bind as well, 13-11 after a 9-3 first half. Looked like they were potentially going to go to an overtime, but eventually they closed it out. So it was icy, I'm not going to lie, from Icy and the boys to get over the line there against Edward. And, you know, they will be kind of ruining their missed opportunities there because after winning their map pick, GT's map pick on the Icebox, and then going back-to-back 13-11 losses, pretty rough way for Edward to bow out of this particular game. This was the funny bit though, right? Ardiis' reaction, because we know that he's been talking about the Chinese teams, we know that he's been talking about like the Asian teams he described them as the other day, and man, it has been very entertaining to see some of the reaction. He's been getting roasted from all sides actually, and he now says I'm China's now #1 fan. He tweeted about this as well. So you know, what does that actually mean? Let me hit the translation real quick. China's the only tier 1 region in Valorant, right? So now Ardiis is like fully on board with the Chinese redemption arc. Obviously, as Tarek says, get ready to learn Chinese as well. This is very funny. I think this is on like Billy or something, and it's basically Ardiis going viral on this Chinese site. It's funny as well how like he gets referred to here. There's a couple of very entertaining discussions. So Ardiis is described as the patriotic youth in some instances. He's also, you know, where else is he? Yeah, the humorous fat man. And then also you have funny fat guy. So funny fat guy is used about 5 or 6 times. It's interesting how, like, different insults and stuff, like, you know, different regions you use different stuff. Because, like, calling someone like a fat guy is just, like, a pretty sure common thing in China. And it is pretty funny. So I'm sure Ardiis doesn't mind anyway, because Ardiis is built different like that. But it is hilarious to see all of these recent posts on this, you know, Chinese websites. Pretty much all from various clips of Ardiis talking trash or maybe coming around to the Chinese Valorant scene, because you know, he's had some very entertaining moments recently when he turned on the Chinese national anthem as well, just as Trace Esports were about to get over the line of the series. That was a rather entertaining moment. So we'll get to that more in a second. I also thought it was interesting that only 3.2%. I actually think this is very high. I'm kind of surprised that it's this high. I mean, what do you guys think about this? Only 3.2% of people picked Trace Esports as the #1 seeds. Like, it must just be Chinese fans, right? Because, or people that actually really know ball and expected Trace Esports to pull off the upsets they did. Because I would have thought it had been a lower number than that, personally. I don't know what you guys think in the comments below. It's not like it was, like, on paper the hardest group ever, but, like, who had Trace Esports making it out #1 seed? I think 3% is actually kind of a high number for that, to be fair. But, intrigued to your perspective in the comments below. But as we just talked about, let's get into the matches of today, because Chinese scene is looking good, and FPX were looking really good as well so far, right? They played Heretics super close in that series. Heretics then went on to beat Gen.G in a super close series. So the feeling was, yeah, maybe it really is going to be FPX knocking out Sentinels, because Sen not on the greatest run of form as of late, and, you know, their pistol rounds have been terrible for a long time now. So what was the result going to be today? And FPX as well, they are an interesting team in the sense that they play Heretics really close. Sentinels today, though, ran pretty standard compositions. They stopped messing around with their deadlock stuff. FPX themselves decided that they were going to go down a different route with their compositions, which I'm not really sure was the best idea. And in the end, it was actually a pretty clean 2-0. Map 1 was a bit sketchy, to be fair, because FPX went off a really good start. They started off 8-4 on the bind on their defensive side. But then Sentinels just completely took over, and there was just nothing happening on the attacking side. I just think that FPX, like, they just faced today. Sentinels just put out standard compositions. They didn't mess around with anything kind of strange, and they just got the job done. And I think this is maybe a learning lesson there for Sentinels, because FPX tried some interesting ideas. Chamber, for example, here on the map 1, didn't really work out for them. And then the Lotus was actually just very dominant, 13-5. This never looked like FPX were even going to be close into this game. Zekken was back on his BS, but I just think from FPX's side, like, no raise on Lotus seems questionable, I'm not going to lie, in the composition department here. And, you know, the back-to-back chambers, I'm not really so sure about it. But anyway, FPX thought that was their best bet of winning the series. They didn't. Impressive from Sentinels for sure, I think. They definitely will take some positives away from this one, and as well they should. The question is whether they can go one further, because the way that the bracket looks right now, the way that their group looks right now is still far from easy. But they've got the first job done, and they've got the first job done far more impressively than I thought they might. The second series, though, that is going to be the challenge, because with Gen.G going down as they did, that is, I mean, a ridiculous series to think about as a group decider game as to who's going to get through. Junkie T says, you know, 2-0 versus FPX, GG to them, actually enjoy winning again. And Tender's like, yeah, glad we can finally win a series. So this is how things look in the group. This is also how things look. Billy versus Crew Esports currently going on. Map 1 on the Lotus, Crew are up 9-7, and like, they should be favoured to get over the line in this series, right? And of course, it's an important elimination game from that group. So let me just bring up exactly what's happening on the stream right about now. Billy versus Crew is the game that will determine who plays Fnatic in their decider as the second team that qualifies. It is Gen.G Sentinels in a couple of days' time. That is, I mean, look, there was always going to be a banger decider game here in this group, and it's interesting for FPX that, you know, they've just been so competitive against Heretics and Gen.G and the teams they've played over the last couple of tournaments, but they played Sentinels and got crushed, so that's a good sign for Sen. Gen.G, though, is of course an entirely different challenge for these guys, and these are the other games that are going to happen over the coming couple of days. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Oh my god, oh my goodness. Okay, wait, so Sen can beat Gen.G or like what?
4 on bind. 6 first blood.
Okay, chat, think about it, think about it. Your guys' complaints were Sen's comps were fucked, right? Sen's comps seem like defaulty now. They went back to default comps. So they have a higher chance, correct?
Figured out their struggles while still seemingly so
And their skill
strong
level
on what
isn't
got
like
them to this point.
lower than Gen.G by a lot or something. So technically, it'll be a good game.
And I want to mention John QT there because, yeah.
But when they've been at their
I think we'll have a
best,
game. Yeah, I might be GE fighting if we lose again. Okay, wait.
This too, he clutched it out before, and now has the Vandal to work with. Time ticking, damage done, and he's being pushed back.
This kid's stupid. This kid is dumb.
Let's go China! Let's go China! Let's go China!
The switch up is insane.
China! Let's go China! Let's go Tens! Let's go! Let's go China! Let's go China!